Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Lau, Executive Director of the Chinese American Museum of Chicago. I welcome you all to this event. We are the first and probably the only Chinese American museum in the Midwest. Our mission is to advance the appreciation of Chinese American culture through exhibitions, education, and research, and to preserve the past, present, and future of Chinese Americans, primarily in the Midwest. We are very, very excited to present to you today a free virtual discussion with Xiang Gao, the creator, composer of Shanghai Sonata, a pioneering new musical that combines musical theater, live classical music, and visual art. This discussion is hosted by our museum, the Chinese American Museum of Chicago, with the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community, CBCAC, and the American Jewish Committee, AJC. I would like to thank Grace Chen, Executive Director of CBCAC, Barbara March Kental, Assistant Director of AJC, as well as Mabel Menard, who is our Vice President of the board and also the Chair of the Public Programming Committee, for working with me to make this event possible. Based on the memoirs of Jewish refugee musicians who escaped Nazi Germany and found refuge in Shanghai in the 1930s and 40s, this musical shares how music helped them to survive the war and how they taught classical music to the local Chinese. The music composed by Xiang is inspired by Jewish and Chinese traditional music, European classical music, and musical theater. Xiang Gao, named as Musical America's top 30 professionals of the year in 2021, Xiang is one of the world's first most successful presenters, producers, composers, and pedagogues. And he has solo performed violin for many world leaders with 100 plus orchestras worldwide. As the Trustees Distinguished Professor, a Professor of Music at the University of Delaware, Xiang is the founding director of Master Players, Concert Series, and Festival. Shanghai Sonatas, the new musical conceptualized and composed by Xiang, is being developed by Tony-winning producers and touring as a concert production. Xiang is represented by the California Artist Management. Today's event is free to attend. Please consider making a donation to our museum through the link in the chat that I will post it later to support our effort to create quality public programming and new exhibition. Thank you. Now, Xiang, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ben. Welcome everybody. I'm honored to be here. I hope you could all hear me okay. And I'm going to ask Ben to interrupt me if there's any technical issues. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Xiang Gao. My name is spelled weird, but it pronounces almost like S-E-A-N, Sean. So I say I'm Sean Connery's Chinese cousin. And I'm honored to share with you this new musical that we started 5 years ago. I went to Shanghai and then visited the Shanghai Jewish Refugee Museum, and then the director, Mr. Chen, encouraged me to do more research, especially into the area of classical music, and I conceptualized and created this musical. We're working on the 5th edition right now, after our Broadway reading back in December of last year. It was very lucky right before Omicron hit the island, and Broadway producers came, and then we are now one step closer to moving this to a regional theater, and then hopefully making this a Broadway ready production in about a year to year and a half time. And I love Chicago. My wife and I lived in Chicago for a year, And I have many friends at UC and Northwestern and Chicago Symphony. I hope one day we could bring at least a concert production of Shanghai Sonatas to all of you and your friends in the Chicago community. There's so many people from Chicago that express interest. So I hope by the end of this, if you have any questions, ideas on how to bring this to Chicago, let me know. Anyways, I'm Chinese American and I'm a classically trained violinist. And this show promotes this unknown history, and many Jewish people and Chinese people don't necessarily know, and shows the unifying power of classical music during difficult times. And of course, he also promotes unity, peace, and cultural understanding and exchange. And the musical is gaining international attention in the recent years. I'm very honored. Yeah, as Ben said, you probably already read, in the 1930s, a group of Jewish refugees, they went to Shanghai, the only place that accepted them. So I have this short trailer of a docufilm that a film company in Los Angeles launched this documentary film called The Garden Bridge. So Garden Bridge, if you're from Shanghai, if you knew Shanghai history, you would know that's we call the Waibaidu Qiao. That's the old name of Waibaidu Qiao is called Garden Bridge. So that is the bridge that divided the Shanghai Jewish ghetto and the rest of the city. So they were monitored and locked down in this little small area of the ghetto, controlled by the Japanese invading army, and then the rest of the city is freedom. So this docufilm follows the creative team and all the many people who have any connection to this part of the history. So I thought you might enjoy watching this short 3-4 minute thing to get the sense and the background knowledge behind why Shanghai Sonata is so popular and why we created this. So I'm going to share screen with you. Here is the trailer for this docufilm that is going to be released in 2023. So I'll see you in a few minutes.
It's great to stand on 44th Street, Broadway, in front of amazing theaters, dreaming big. One day, I hope a musical written by an immigrant from China could make Broadway one day.
All human beings are musical. Everyone has the capacity to appreciate music, to respond to music, to make music, and connect with music.
The humanality, the unifying power of music can happen anywhere, to any people. Music has really no border.
It's really quite amazing. Something as dark as the Holocaust would come such incredible, flourishing beauty.
The Jewish refugees, they came to Shanghai, they had nothing left but music. They were able to find some kind of human commonality. Through music, they were able to connect.
Change the outcome of classical music in China forever.
My father received the summons to the Gestapo. We knew that most people who went to those interviews never came back again. Every day I think about my mother crying and not wanting to go. My father had to pick her up and carry her out.
Because the Chinese allowed them to come in and live there, they survived.
There's a very well-known Confucian saying that goes like 有朋自远方来，不亦乐乎. It basically means if you have a friend who comes from very, very far away, you should be very, very happy about it. Treat them very, very well.
It was a tremendous change from coming out of Nazi Germany, where people hated us. These people just accepted us. We didn't speak each other's language, but it didn't seem to matter.
When these Jews were leaving Europe, they could carry with them only their most precious belongings. What did they bring with them? Their violins. And it was very important to them to hold on to that culture and the traditions and then share that with their new community.
It's their excellence, it's their artistry and Chinese musicians' eagerness to learn that connected them.
Today, China is the largest producer of classical musicians.
My own family members have studied with one of the Jewish refugee musicians. What I found from these stories is an inspiration for musicians like me to create something, to share something with the public, so that we can understand how humans are so capable of helping each other. It gives me an opportunity to continue my mission in connecting people with music and experimenting a fusion of many different styles in one musical theater production.
The possibilities are endless as to how this show can teach, can inspire, and can move people.
It speaks to the human condition, and it speaks to the beauty and power of music.
There's no better time to remind us as humans how much we have, how much we share, the love of music, the love of each other, family. Those values are what really unites us.
Someone brought a violin to the workshop, and when my father opened it, there was ashes inside, because the guy who played it, he played on the way to the gas chambers. One violin, it's written inside Heil Hitler, 1936, with a very ugly and aggressive swastika.
Violinists who play these violins of hope sometimes tell me that they can sense the performer who once held the instruments. The fingers on the fingerboard has made microscopic dents, and so that sound from the player comes alive again.
Sometimes they burst into tears, or they want to hold it for a few more minutes because it's a piece of history.
All these actors and characters, I'm dreaming big, will play on these real instruments. You know,
I hope so.
How incredibly powerful that can be.
Obviously, the Holy Grail is Broadway. There's so much competition. There are so many shows and very few theaters. I mean, we have no idea what's going to work.
What you need is an emotional connection. You can get people to move, to change their beliefs, or to be enlightened about something. Giving voice to the voiceless really means something. It's powerful.
Thank you for watching. So as you can tell that this part of the history is inspiring, but when we create a musical, it cannot be a documentary. We have to create characters based on the true stories. We have to create storylines. We have to bring people to that part of the history. So to write a musical, it's a very difficult art form because you know, we have a lyricist, we have a book writer, I'm the composer, and we have historians. We all have to work as one family, almost like a three-way or four-way marriage. We work. This is our 5th year. You know, Hamilton took 10 years, 7 editions. This is our 5th year. Even during the pandemic, we had a lot of time and created a lot of materials. So this is our 5th edition, and I'm really excited about the future. And at the end of the presentation today, I will answer some quick questions. And I wanted to share now with you the content from our musical. This is from a 2020, right before the pandemic, in mid-February 2020, we had a showcase, like a workshop showcase of the version number 4, the previous version. That version, many of the songs are surviving this revision, going to the 5th edition. So at least you will get to see how we create the story. So I hope you enjoy this 2-3 minute trailer from that Shanghai Sonatas production. So here it is.
Soon we'll go through yesterday's door. Soon when we can turn the clock back, we'll be like we were before. With my violin each day, always on call, and that is how I made it here. They would command, the violin would play. Then it was wrong to make music. We see the rise of our sun. Maybe tomorrow we'll cross that garden bridge, a bridge that leaves behind our tears, a bridge across our fears. Maybe tomorrow we'll cross that garden bridge. Life begins across that bridge. Liberation, 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 liberation. It is true, we are free, we are free, liberation, salvation, cancellation. We can walk to any place we like to be. We can never turn the clock back. Life as we have known it is gone. There's a love for your music. Now I've learned my heritage. This is my ancestry. My teacher's teacher's teacher was a Jewish refugee. Everyone, they
Thank you again for watching that. So in a production showcase workshop like this, there's no set, there's no props, and so it's just basically a simple version. And we created a version based on that for concert presenting organizations with symphony orchestras, with different theaters, so then we could share the story with different communities. And then we're hoping to bring that concert production similar to what you just saw to Chicago, because when we move a whole production, full musical, to a city, that usually happens after, hopefully, a Broadway success. So I hope to get some advice from you and support and ideas from you. But anyways, back to creating Shanghai Sonatas, I would like to say that because right now we are writing the new edition to focus more on the 1930s character. We're trying to develop Leo. Leo is the person who came from Dachau, and after 3 years of separation, he escapes the concentration camp by providing music service to the SS officers. He accompanied executions, and he hates the fact that he escaped death and was able to live and to be reunited with his wife, but he hates music. So this character we want to develop because it's so dramatic that he hates music. Now Leo does not want to have anything to do with classical music. For me, as a classically trained violinist, I cannot imagine that, and that's based on a true story. But then because of the necessity that he needed to teach to make food money. So he teaches this Chinese kid locally called Minkai, and then by teaching Minkai, he sees the power of music, and he becomes slowly a musician again. So it's a full circle. And Minkai at the beginning hates classical music, hates practicing as a teenager, and also was very confused about white people killing white people, and then all the foreign invaders destroying China, and then why am I learning Western music? And we already have a very sophisticated music. Chinese classical music, traditional music has 2,000 years of history. But then he falls in love with Western music, and then suddenly, quickly he becomes a virtuoso violinist. And during this whole experience, music united the two groups of people that had absolutely nothing in common, and then they they became great musicians. And then many Jews, of course, left Shanghai after the war, but a few of the musicians actually continued to teach until the 50s. Now, as you read earlier, China has more than 60 million classical music students, and it is by far the largest market in classical music. And everywhere you look around, you see many people who look like me, youth orchestras and professional symphony halls, and Chicago Symphony, and the conservatories. You see a lot of Asian Americans, a lot of Chinese Americans, and they are not, first, not all 60 million are directly connected to these Jews, about 450 Jewish musicians, but many of them are indirectly connected to them, and some of them are directly connected to this part of history. So I think it's very powerful to share that, and it's very non-political. It focuses on the human commonality and the power of classical music. So that's part of the reason it's gaining a lot of attention. And people ask me, what type of music? Ben talked about this. We have 5 different genres of music mixed into this truly melting pot type of production. Shanghai itself is a melting pot, just like New York. But Shanghai was even worse because everybody came from everywhere. And so I wanted musically to cultivate my audience so that they could hear, Broadway music. They could hear Shanghai fusion jazz in the 1930s, Zhou Xuan singing, 何日君再来, when will you return? And then, so in the 1930s, that's a style all by itself. And of course, Western classical music, Brahms, Beethoven, Mozart, Bach. I like the audience to hear classical music knowing, it's not so foreign. One of the reasons I chose musical theater is because of classical music. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, we also have Chinese traditional music. You hear erhu, you hear guzheng, you hear Chinese Peking opera. Minkai, the Chinese boy, his mother, Tanhua, in Chinese we call Tanhua Yixian. She was a A-list Peking opera superstar, and then because the Japanese bombed her theater and then killed her husband, who was anti-Japanese invasion, she had to change her career and sing jazz in a little local Bailemen club, and then she wants something new for her son, just like many people during that time. A lot of that whole generation of Chinese people, so confused and so disappointed. Everything, the old values were collapsing, and then the Western invasions, and then the warlords fighting each other. They thought, maybe this beautiful art form, classical music, can save our children. So many people were studying Western technology, literature, music. So during this time, her son Minkai studies Chinese, classical music with Leo, who came from Germany. Anyways, so the reason. There's also one more musical style, which is klezmer music, the Jewish klezmer music. Jazzy and folk, and people heard that music for the first time in China. Many of the Jews brought their violins, clarinet. And during the time, there's Yiddish theater, there's newspaper, there's youth sports clubs and orchestras, ensembles, concerts. So these are all true stories that's so important to share during today's troubled time and this world is so crazy, I think we need to understand history and share this with our youth. And the reason I picked musical theater, I'm a classically trained musician. You know, I'm a violin soloist and chamber musician. I compose a lot of chamber music, but I really wanted a family audience, kids, because when you think about musical theater, there's a lot of popular music, there's dancing, storytelling, acting, and fun visual effects. I like them to come and to also hear great traditional, classical, and different styles of music, especially classical music that's so dear to my heart, so then they could feel like, this is not so foreign. You know, Brahms can sound quite beautiful, Mozart, Bach, Beethoven. So that's part of the reason I'm hiding classical music behind and pushing classical music to be shared with more of our youth. During this time, you know, during the whole pandemic, I have to say my daughter is a classical violinist. Even though she doesn't practice a lot like when I did, but even that 1 hour a day, to me, I think it's just searching for beauty in life is better than lying in bed playing computer games or, you know, social media. I think I as a classical musician, I love to promote the value of high culture and high art, and for our generation to come. Anyways, and people ask me, you know, klezmer music, you know, show us classical music. So I want to share with you this one of my favorite songs is called "The Year of the Underdog." You know, at the end you hear they sing, you know, "L'chaim" to life, and "Ganbei," dry your glass. How the Jews and the Chinese they first met, and then in this song I specifically used klezmer music material, and so then we could really go back to the ghetto and then hear the voice of these refugees. So I hope you could bear with me and listen to this song, so it's the year of the tiger, but then of course this was a horrible year, so they call this the year of the underdog. So let's try it.
It's the year I lost everything, but I don't sing the blues. Now in the year I lost everything, what have I got to lose? The knock on the door, my life was stalled by an invitation to book involved. No time to plan, no time to pack. By God's good grace, I escaped through the back. It's the year I lost everything, but I don't sing the blues. Now in the year I lost everything, what have I got to lose?
Knock on the door, our lives were changed. Plans we had been making were rearranged. Our music's gone, you've heard the news. Their concerts stopped when they lost all their Jews. It's the year I lost everything, but I don't sing the blues. Now in the year I lost everything, what have I got to lose?
I played first violin in each concert I was in, from Vienna to Calais. Now I take out the trash just to earn a little cash, but at night I play for the local cabaret.
Now we pull a little cart, hoping we can sell some rice.
I try not to complain about the mildew and the rain and the rats and the mice and the wasps that crawl with lice.
know what year 1939 is in China? Isn't every year supposed to be some kind of animal?
It's the year of the tiger.
Oh, I was hoping it would be the year of the dog. I had to leave mine behind in Germany. I miss him.
You don't need to miss him. We all live like dogs now.
And the Japanese are the tigers.
Devouring all of us. Japanese at our door and all new rules. We're no longer safe in our homes or schools.
They're at each shop, they're at each stand. We're prisoners here while we're in our own land.
Now I work in a mine, I once owned a railroad line, but we
take what we can get. Now we sleep in the street and we beg for what we eat. Each day's a roulette to avoid a bayonet.
That must mean that this is the year of the underdog. We're all underdogs now!
It's the year of the underdog. If we can just survive, now we've got new friends and family. We're glad to be alive.
You can teach violin.
I have a class you could be in.
That'll be where I belong.
We have food we'll give you.
I can make us all a stew. Then we'll play mahjong and we'll all break into song. It's our year of the underdog. We'll live another day. Now we've got new friends and family. Toast for triumph and unpaid. It's the year of the underdog. We'll live another day. Now we've got new friends and family. Toast the heart, the heart, the
Yep. So klezmer music. We also have a lot of new improvements on the music. We have great improvisation and all that kind of stuff. I know there's a lot of chat messages. I'm sorry I'm not able to read them at this point, but thank you so much. I'll read them very soon. And people ask me what is my favorite song so far. I have to say it's called a song called Turning the Clock Back, or it's called I Can Never Turn the Clock Back. So you know how we all miss our loved ones and beautiful moments in life. And the Jews, they're singing this song. I really think is a beautiful one, that they are hoping to be able to turn the clock back and go back. How I wish I could turn the clock back and go back to pre-COVID time, all these beautiful moments in life, our loved ones. So during the pandemic, we felt even more passionate about this song. So if you don't mind, I'd love to share this. This will be the last song I will share today. And then we go into the Q&A. And then from a theatrical point of view, when you watch this, we're the audience, we know the Jews are not going back to Germany. They're not going to go see their families because they will be all dead. But because this song is so hopeful, and so they're singing with so much hope and sweetness, it's a heart-wrenching, a sad moment for us. And so the character Benny, who comes from present time, also feels this unbelievable pain, witnessing the Jews wishing to turn the clock back. I think this is one of the memorable moments of our show. So here it is.
From my daughter in Vienna says that they burned down all the synagogues and no one dares to go out anymore. I haven't heard anything since.
I haven't heard a thing from my mother or brothers in months.
And nothing from my family in Munich either.
Don't worry. We didn't come to Shanghai to stay forever. This is all gonna blow over in a year and we'll be back with our friends and families.
I hope you're right, Sam.
Sure I am, honey. Soon when we can turn the go through yesterday's door. Soon when we can turn the clock back, we'll be like we were before.
Soon we can turn the clock back. Soon we'll go through yesterday's door. Soon when we can turn the clock back, we'll be like we were before. My hair and clothes were up to date. I spent summers by the sea, had tea on the balcony. We'd walk in the park and dine after dark. The world belonged to me.
I'd drink good beer and laugh and sing all the songs I could compose, staying up till the bars would close.
Our cares were all gone. We'd eat marzipan
and learn the latest dance.
Leo and I played many duets. We were in demand, and then it ended. When it's mended, we'll be back in our own land.
I'll play again in Vienna. I start at the concert hall. They'll need me in the orchestra for the Ringo Parsifal.
Soon when we can turn the clock back,
We'll go through yesterday's door. Soon when we can turn the clock back,
we'll be like we were before.
we'll see our families and our friends.
my dear mother, I'll see her.
We'll break out the best liqueur.
New babies to meet, old uncles to greet.
We'll be the way we were.
Soon when we can turn the clock back,
Soon we'll go through yesterday's door. Soon when we can turn the clock back, we'll be like we were before.
Time will be our friend.
These dreadful days will end.
Live in harmony once more. In the Germany,
Austria,
We knew
and loved
Thank you for your lovely notes in the chat. I appreciate that. Yes, my dream is to bring this on tour, the concert production. I'd love to come to Chicago. It's one of the most important cities on our list because the large community, minorities as well, and I think it's appropriate during today's time to share these stories with the temperature based on true historic events. And gosh, classical music, it's so important. Anyways, I love to answer some quick questions. We have about 15 minutes left. I teach at the University of Delaware in Newark, Delaware, outside of Philadelphia. And you could find me at the University of Delaware School of Music. I'll put my email in here if you have any ideas and questions. Suggestions. I love to hear from you.
Yes, may I start asking questions
Yes,
before
please.
our audience decide what question to ask. Xiang, you are a classically trained musician, so what drew you to musical theater? And you've mentioned that this is a hybrid production. What do you mean by that?
Yes, so I was trained. I went to University of Michigan. That's my alma mater. and they have a #1 musical theater program in the world. So I learned so much when I was an undergrad student, and I fell in love with songwriting. I always enjoyed musical theater. But as I said earlier, I wanted to have classical music involved in, um, uh, uh, as part of this production. So I call this a hybrid production because we have a lot of live classical instrumental playing during the show. You haven't seen any of the show really. We have like 18 songs, and it's a full production. So we have these characters and played by amazing singing actors from Broadway, and they can sing, dance, act, and play musical instruments. Many of them. It's really impressive. So during the live performance, you will hear them playing violin, clarinet, cello, and as I also stated in the trailer, some of the instruments are actually provided by Violence of Hope collection. Those instruments belong to the victims of Holocaust. So it's very, very powerful. Another layer of powerful expression for the live audience. Yeah, so that's why it's hybrid, and I'm really excited about this. That is unusual, unique, and hopefully for Broadway.
So in addition to composing the music, you are also the director of the project. May I know, who funds the project?
Yes, in the past 4 or 5 years, we advanced the show from the first edition to today with many readings, workshops, hiring, actors and musicians, orchestration, all of that, filming. They were all funded by private donations and foundations. So we're very grateful for people who believe in this project and the power of art and music. Currently, we're continuing to fundraising as a nonprofit theater and to hopefully get more support to do more readings and workshops in New York City and large cities. Of course, our goal is Broadway, and we're also looking for investors and producers to join our team to commercialize this. Because the power of commercial theater is that, if you think about education, Hamilton is a super successful commercial theater, and now Hamilton is going to classrooms, right? So the most powerful tool is commercial theater, commercial success, and then that's how we push education. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to push to the national level. Yeah, so we're hoping to join many of you to bring this to Broadway and to Chicago. If you have other people who love the arts and they support the arts, please let them know about this. Shanghai Sonatas, we have a website called shanghaisonatas.com. We might even change the name. This is just currently the name, but once we commercialize this, there's many different things we can do.
And I know the classical music tradition goes back one more generation in your family. Can you talk about growing up in a family of professional classical musicians in China? Is there a connection to Shanghai Sonatas?
Yeah, I found a direct connection. I'm third generation classical musician. My grandparents, my mother's side, they're both classical musicians from Tianjin, and that's also where Juilliard has its first and only overseas campus in China. They opened in 2019. And my mother's oldest sister studied with someone. She doesn't remember. She's 85 years old, but she does remember studying with one of the Jewish musicians when she was in Shanghai in the 50s. So those who stayed. And my daughter is first generation Chinese American. She's studying classical music. So this is our family tradition, and so I feel personally connected to this musical. And then the songs "Teachers, Teachers, Teacher" is true. Who knew? I didn't know that my music also indirectly came from Jewish refugees who came from Germany and Austria.
Okay, thanks. So what does this project have to do with your violin teaching and performing career?
Yeah, it's about connecting dots, right? Making music and serving the right social purpose in life, in our careers. music in Chinese means happiness. The same character means happiness. The old Chinese character music also means medicine, right? So so it has healing power. Um, so I love to continue my path to promote cultural understanding exchange between, China and the Western world, and the Chinese people, and you could imagine the Jews when they went to Shanghai, they had absolutely nothing in common with the Chinese. Zero. Language, tradition, religion, lifestyle, art, anything. But during difficult times, humans are capable of helping each other. We should not underestimate our positive energy and capability. And then, now 85 years later, time was much tougher back then compared to our times today, even after the pandemic, even during the war. We should be able to do one more time. We should, for our children, for our grandchildren, we owe them. We owe them a better world, a better environment, a better future as adults. So, and I also, this is connected to my music education. As a classical violin teacher, I teach violin students, so I want them to also see our art form is being shared even on a Broadway musical stage, so we can develop more audience members.
Thank you. There is a question from an audience, Judy. She asked, will you be submitting to the film festivals?
Yes, the docu-film itself will be its individual separate project, the Garden Bridge. Once that's released, they will definitely want to submit any film festival. I don't know. I'm not involved. They just interviewed me. So I love to get some advice if you know anything, if you have any suggestions. But I know for a fact they're talking to Amazon Prime, Netflix, and other platforms with the hope to release. So then the world can learn more about this production, why we're creating it, the history behind it. It's great for our marketing purpose, free marketing. But they just love the story, so we're very grateful. Yes, we will try to submit.
And another audience, Vivian asks, she's wondering if you have reached out to George Takei. I think it's Takei. Is it the star from the movie? It's called Star Trek. Is it?
Yes, that George Takei.
Yeah.
I actually don't know George. I would love to know more about George. We're talking to everybody.
Yeah, if you're familiar, so George Takei came out with an Asian American musical called Allegiance a few years back.
Oh, really?
So you may want to connect with him. I'm going to send you an email, and I'm not directly connected with him, but there's definitely a following for Allegiance, and it would be, I think it would be like he's already worn some of those tracks, and I bet that that would be helpful for your cause as well.
I'd love to. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I'll send an email.
Is he Japanese?
What?
Is he Japanese American?
He is. He's Japanese American. So Allegiance tells the story of Japanese internment.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
And it was a musical that went to Broadway and then was filmed and broadly distributed as a film that largely, I think, traveled the Japanese American community. But I think it's just so important to the Asian American experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like Japanese Americans really are. I mean, so many of them are so committed to the Asian American cause, and I feel like this is just a beautiful story.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we would love to get his advice. It's really a universal story. It doesn't really matter where it happened. I just that's part of the reason we even thought about changing the name, because it really has nothing to do with Shanghai, where Jewish or Chinese. It's a human story. that it could happen in Africa, it could happen anywhere. And these humans, all the real heroes are the street level people who made the sacrifice, who made the change when they had absolutely no power. And those are the people that we really value the most. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that, Vivian. Any other questions?
Yeah, the audience, you can turn on your mic if you have any question to ask.
No. Ben, do you have any other questions?
Well, I saw that someone from the audience asked, will the show coming to Chicago?
I hope so. My biggest hope is to maybe work with Chicago Symphony or bring to the University of Chicago Concert Hall, and they have a large performing arts center, and or Northwestern, or one of the theaters. My hope is by October, once we premiere the concert production, which has a lot more Asian and Chinese content right now. I wrote new songs. It was very well received during the Broadway reading back in December a few months ago. So when that video comes out, I'm hoping to contact presenters. If you know people who are on the board of some of the of these organizations, Chicago Symphony and theaters, universities, let us know. We love to share this with them. And it's all about awareness right now. Love Chicago.
Oh, great. Okay, one last question from me. I would like to know, what is the goal of this whole show? What's the goal?
Yes, our immediate goal is to finish the 5th edition, create the concert production, start touring, and then start commercializing the show to move into regional theater. So either off Broadway or regional theater, like Berkeley Rap or Yale Rap or somewhere in Connecticut, New Haven. So then we could make this a Broadway ready production in about a year and a half, and that's when we have the set, we have the visual effects, time traveling. We hope to use virtual reality, naked eye, so without goggles you could see virtual reality. The technology exists already, and then hopefully move it to Broadway in 2 years' time. At the same time, maybe making a film, a musical theater film, and after the pandemic, this might also have a market in China and other countries, Germany, Austria, Israel, Australia. So yes, I'm hoping to reach the world. And thank you for your time. And I know we have 1 more minute left.
Yes, thank you, Xiang, for the great presentation. And thank you all for participating in this event. And before we go, I would like to invite our partners, Barbara from AJC and Grace Chan from CBCAC. Do you have a few words to say before we go? Can you turn on your camera so that people can see you, see our partners?
Thank you so much. This was wonderful, and I'm inspired, and I can't wait to see this in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Xiang, for bringing this to us, even though there's just a small teaser. So hopefully we can see the rest of it when the show comes to Chicago.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here. And you could see my email is in the chat. It's my full name at udel.edu, UDEL, University of Delaware.edu. And I'd love to meet you in person one day. And thank you so much.
Again, thank you so much, Xiang, for your presentation. And thank you all for your participation. And don't forget to make a donation to our museum. And thank you. And I wish you all have a great evening today. Thank you.
Happy spring.
Yeah.
L'chaim. Bye.
Bye-bye.